walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be. This is not a new world. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. It has refinements, technological advances, and a more sophisticated approach to the destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the super-states that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Hello to you all. We're back. RHTVLive.
Any state, any entity, any ideology that fails to recognize the worth, the dignity, the rights of man, that state is obsolete. A case to be filed under M for Mankind in the Twilight Zone.
Indeed, we are in the Twilight Zone. Streaming live from Maastricht. And we're going to take a look at geopolitics. And I just found this thing on Al Jazeera talking about Transnistria. You know, it's a very it's a place in Moldova, and it's at the border of Moldova. It's actually known to be a country not recognized. Here you have Tiraspol, which is in Transnistria. Tiraspol is the capital of Transnistria, a breakaway state in Moldova, which is the second largest city. So there you go. And why is this important? Well, I just showed you guys this clip here. Ukraine and Russia trade blame over attacks in Moldova region. Yep, two antennas were destroyed and other stuff. So, and one is blaming the other for a false flag attack. So we're going to watch this here.
Nationally unrecognized border to a country that doesn't officially exist. The checkpoint between Moldova and its breakaway region of Transnistria is busy, much more so than usual. A wave of unexplained attacks in the sliver of land between Moldova to the west and Ukraine to the east mean lengthy checks going in and out. Locals can pass without special permission. Journalists can't. People are nervous to speak, confused about what's happening. The war in Ukraine's only 15 kilometers away.
It's horrible what's happening in Ukraine. We lived through war in the 1990s. War only means one thing: bloodshed.
On Monday, there was an apparent rocket attack on Transnistria's security service building in the regional capital, Tiraspol. The next day, 2 Soviet-era radio masts were destroyed, and on Wednesday, Transnistrian officials said shots were fired from Ukraine into the region close to a Russian arms depot. Ukraine calls the attacks false flag operations, a pretext for Russia to mobilize troops in the region, raising concerns that this could become a new front in the war in Ukraine. Moscow denies it has its sights set on Transnistria.
We strongly condemn attempts to drag Transnistria into what's happening in Ukraine, and we can hear some of the sensationalist claims about preparations by Russian peacekeepers, Tiraspol airstrip, and Transnistrian conscripts for some hostile actions.
It's believed there are around 1,500 Russian troops, so-called peacekeepers, permanently stationed in Transnistria. They've been there ever since the war between Russian-backed separatists and Moldovan authorities in the early 1990s. The region also has a modest military, several thousand strong. On the one side of this thin border, Moldova, a country with EU aspirations. On the other, a country not recognised anywhere internationally, that still uses the Soviet hammer and sickle on its national flag. Earlier in the week, the Moldovan President Maya Sandu said unnamed forces inside Transnistria were in favour of war. The country's neutral under its constitution, but it does have strong ties with the EU and NATO, without being a member of either. The war next door in Ukraine suddenly feels much closer.
So all the refugees that come from Ukraine go through Transnistria, right? And Transnistria is basically a big breakaway region, and it's basically the whole border of Moldova. So, you know, you can even find it on Wikipedia. But Moldova wants to join the EU. Now, which countries are in the EU, you might wonder. So we're going to take a look at the countries inside the European Union. There you go. Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Netherlands. My country is also part of the European Union. Poland, and there's Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden. And those are the countries inside the European Union. So I don't see Moldova being inside the European Union, do you? I didn't see that coming. So they want to be part of the EU. Now, do we want that as the EU? I don't think so. Big enough already. So, yeah. It's very sad to see that another country is being involved in a war in another country, you know. So, yeah, the vacuum of a conflict is growing. It's growing bigger and bigger and expanding even more. So let's see. Someone is sending me some messages here. So that's happening, people. That's happening. Now, let's take a look at Transnistria and just, look around. Be the tourist. Because a lot of people have went there, So let's take a look at this fine-looking lady. And let's see how her adventures were in Transnistria.
Good morning, guys. I am starting this video off in a very unconventional way because not only am I going for a run, which I rarely do anymore, but it's also 9 a.m. so very strangely early for me to be up and at it. But anyways, I am here in Tiraspol, which is in a country that I think very few people know about, called Transnistria. It is a breakaway republic of Moldova, So it's a whole different world here where people mainly speak just Russian. It's very much the remnants of Soviet times, and they even have their own currency, which is the Transnistrian ruble. And even though it's not recognized by anywhere else and you can only use them here, they still got it. It's actually been a very interesting day so far that I've been here, where on one hand, things seem so normal. It reminds me so much of, even Ukraine or, certain smaller areas of Russia that I've been. But being in that breakaway republic and having had all that happen in their history, there is a different sort of sense to it. So I'm going to show you guys around today and give you an inside look. Alright, so we are back at the apartment. I am freshly showered, and I thought I would give you guys a little tour of the place that I'm staying at, because it's kind of funny how all of this unfolded. So there wasn't a huge amount of places to stay in Tiraspol, and I thought, why not try a hostel? It was like super inexpensive, and I thought that might be like a great way to, get more information, meet some people. And yesterday I arrived here by bus from Kishinev, and by the way, if you're ever looking to do this trip, take a bus. It costs, honestly, I think 37 lei, so like $3. It took an hour and a half. It was super easy to go through the border. They drop you off really central, so yeah, if you're going to do this trip, honestly, save your money and just take the bus instead of a taxi. Anyways, they drop me off on the street where my hostel is supposed to be, right? And I walk up and down the street with my 100 pounds of luggage that I have behind me, and it's just so confusing because where it's supposed to be, it isn't. So I go in and out of shops asking people, like, have you heard of this place? Like, it's called Old Tiraspol, by the way, and nobody's heard of it until finally I asked this one lady, and she directs me to go to the back of this one other building, and it's kind of this weird looking alleyway, and I see this one door, and beside the door there's this little house symbol that has an H, and I was like, are you kidding me? If this is the place, they literally have like no signage. It's in the back of, even farther of where it's supposed to be, and it's like the most confusing thing to find. But anyways, I go up to the 3rd floor because the hostel did say that it was on the 3rd floor. And I meet this lovely lady, and yep, that's the place. I had booked it on booking.com, and I had chosen a twin room, hoping that actually nobody else would be there, so I would get the room all to myself. And that's exactly what happened, if not a step further. Because what this place actually is just like somebody's apartment. The people who own it actually live next door. So the crazy part is that there's literally nobody else staying here right now. It's just me. So not only do I have this whole room to myself, let me actually show you guys here. So 2 really cute beds.
Well, that's very nice to know, but we're here to see the view. Let's look at Transnistria. Start from here, I guess. She's outside.
Crazy actually, because obviously the tank right behind me is a monument and I don't think it's working anymore. But when you come to the checkpoint in Transnistria, there is an actual working tank there and soldiers everywhere. So if you want to see a real tank, I guess you could come here. So here's at the very top of the monument. So here on the other side of the monument, there's actually supposed to be a museum about the war history, so I'm gonna go check it out. Ага. О, вау. И в
So there you have it, people. Transnistria. Let's look up some more info on the country that doesn't even exist.
How did a narrow strip of land between the river Dniester and the border between Moldova and Ukraine become a global flashpoint? How do you visit a country that doesn't exist? All the answers to your questions can be found in the land known as Transnistria. The region is officially part of Moldova, and those who visit the country can tour the place and visit its capital, Tiraspol. But if you ask the people living there, they're not a part of Moldova. They're their own country, and they want global recognition. This conflict goes back decades, and it doesn't seem to be getting any closer to being resolved. It even turned from a diplomatic squabble into a military conflict at one point, and maybe inspiring other independence movements in the region and beyond. But why is this region such a trouble spot? Some might say it started with a Cold War, but it goes back much further. The land that would become Transnistria was never far from war, as it was inhabited by Thracian and Scythian tribes in ancient history. The region was found in old texts as early as Roman times and eventually colonized by them. But when the empire receded and eventually fell, the region would once again be a site of conflict. It would be conquered by the Goths and later ravaged by Attila the Hun. The Goths would eventually occupy the region again, but even then the political situation wouldn't be smooth, as it would be divided between the two tribes. Things would only get more influx from there. The region was a frequent crossroads for various tribes, including the South Slavs and Turkic nomads who settled the region. It became home to a host of languages and cultures and was dominated by the Turkic Kuman tribe in the early 2nd millennium. But this was the age of empires, and independent regions would rarely stay so forever. The Ottoman Empire made inroads into the region, bringing most of modern-day Moldova into its sphere, but the region that would become Transnistria would become part of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania instead in the 15th century. But centuries of war and conflict were only beginning. Transnistria was at the crossroads of multiple powers, and it would see itself overrun multiple times. The Byzantine Empire built a massive fortress on its coast. The Republic of Genoa controlled it in the 14th century, only for the Turkish army to invade. The new city, founded by those who escaped the conquest, would one day become Transnistria's capital city, Tiraspol. Sometimes the region was divided between multiple powers. Sometimes a bigger power would merge with an existing one, like the Polish-Lithuanian Confederacy. But as the modern era neared, an even bigger power was emerging. The region was diverse in the late 1700s, with a population of Romanians, Ukrainians, Poles, nomadic Tartars, and Russians. But it would be that last group that was the most significant, because the Russian Empire was growing, and it was interested in absorbing all the territory that could be considered in its sphere. To avoid conflict, the land was partitioned. The southern part was given to the Russian Empire in 1792, and the northern part a year later in the second partition of Poland. The Russians quickly moved to boost the area's population, bringing in large numbers of settlers. They renamed part of the new area New Moldovia, and the region's complex history was only going to get stranger. Russia's government wanted to turn the region into a new hub, and they distributed tax-free land among the Moldovan peasants. Powerful families became land barons. New villages were founded en masse, and the region's new status as a Russian border community meant economic boom times. But all good things come to an end. Russia soon expanded its territory again. The borders shifted, and the land that would become Transnistria became just another Russian region of no special importance. The region entered a new normal, but it wouldn't be long before history found it again. By the turn of the 20th century, it's estimated that there were more than 1 million people in the region. The heavy Romanian population was growing restless under Russian rule, and around the time of the First World War, the Bessarabian national movement formed. They asked for the region to be absorbed into Greater Romania, but Romania ignored their request to avoid war with Russia. This was also around the time the Russian Empire fell and was replaced with the Soviet Union, and the communist government had different perspectives on independent movements than the Tsars. The path to Transnistrian independence was about to take another turn. Grigory Kotovsky, the head of the Bessarabian movement, had risen to power within the Soviet government, and he proposed an autonomous communist region that would give the citizens of Transnistria more independence. But it wouldn't be a smooth path. A massive workers' uprising in 1927 led the Soviet government to deploy troops in Tiraspol to put down the riots, resulting in 4,000 deaths. The new government didn't seem to be any more concerned with the people's demands than the last one, and even suppressed reports of the fighting in the press. Things went from bad to worse under Stalin, as strict conformity was imposed, and the ethnic traditions of the Romanian population were suppressed. Many fled to Romania, and those who stayed found themselves under a brutal regime, and World War II was just around the corner. In 1940, the Moldavian Soviet Socialist Republic was formed, but it wouldn't last long. Only a year later, Axis forces invaded Bessarabia and quickly took over the region. This was when it would be renamed Transnistria, and the Romanian authorities quickly reversed the changes made by the Soviets. Churches were reopened, schools began to re-emphasize the ethnic traditions of the region, and theaters and schools returned to their previous programming. Caught between the Soviet army and the Nazi regime, the citizens faced an uncertain future and were largely divided among ethnic lines once again. By the end of the war, their fortunes would change yet again. The Soviet army retook the region in 1944 as the Axis forces were driven out and the Romanian government with them. Stalin wasted no time instituting harsh reprisals against the local Romanians, with thousands being deported to gulags and the Moldovan SSR being subjected to even harsher measures of Russification. While Moldova as a whole was oppressed by the Soviets, Transnistria's economy grew. It became the center of industry during the Soviet era, had a military base placed there, and dominated the economy of Moldova for decades. But the world would soon change again, and Transnistria would encounter its most troubled times in decades. A new leader took over the Soviet Union in the 1980s, and much of the world breathed a sigh of relief. Mikhail Gorbachev was a much less confrontational figure than his predecessors, and his policies of perestroika and glasnost led to less tension with the rest of the world and a more liberal political climate in the Soviet Union. Both enclaves, like Transnistria, it led to old conflicts rising again. Transnistria's population was firmly split. Almost 40% Moldovan, just over a quarter Ukrainian, and a quarter Russian, with small groups of ethnic minorities mixed in. This led to conflicts over language and culture without the Soviets imposing a one-size-fits-all policy. And soon that simmering tension would explode. An informal Congress was formed, and they declared themselves an independent nation. They hoped Gorbachev's tolerance would lead them to recognize their independence, but instead he declared it null and void. As the Soviet Union collapsed, Moldova declared independence and laid claim to the region. They soon launched a military assault on the region to try to reunite it with Moldova, and Russia responded in kind. While the Soviet Union was no more, Russia, under President Boris Yeltsin, had no intention of losing any more territory. The new Moldovan army was overwhelmed by the Russians, and the war was over in only 2 months with a ceasefire. And out of that ceasefire would come an unusual status quo. A three-party joint control commission would take over security and establish the region as a demilitarized zone on both sides of the river. Russia, Moldova, and the local government of Transnistria would work together to establish policy, and Transnistria would be allowed to govern itself as a semi-autonomous republic, but it would be internationally recognized as part of Moldova, which didn't really satisfy anyone involved. Many Moldovans want what they see as their territory, many Russians believe it belongs to them, and many Transnistrians believe they deserve full independence. But for now, an odd limbo awaits the pseudo-nation. So what's life like in Transnistria now? The region has its own government, parliament, and military. It's allowed to maintain its own currency and police force, and any mail that comes out of there will be labeled as from Transnistria. It even has its own national anthem and flag. Everything you would expect the country to have. It just lacks one thing: recognition as a country from the rest of the world, which is determined to maintain the fragile peace that the Joint Commission worked out for the region. But some people want that to change. No country on Earth recognizes Transnistria as a country, mostly to avoid upsetting the balance and potentially angering world powers. But 3 other entities in the same boat do, and they all have a lot in common. Abkhazia, a region recognized as part of Georgia; South Ossetia, another region in Georgia seeking independence; and Artsakh, a breakaway region of Azerbaijan. All 4 of these entities were once part of the Soviet Union, and wound up belonging to other countries after the fall of the empire. All seek independence, but Abkhazia and South Ossetia are only recognized by a few countries, and Transnistria and Artsakh by none. So they formed their own alliance, the Community for Democracy and Rights of Nations. But not everyone in Transnistria wants independence. While some ethnic Moldovans do want their region to be part of Moldova, others are hoping to be part of the much bigger neighbors. The economic climate in Transnistria isn't great, and many older citizens believe their fortunes will be better under Russia's social safety net. Young people also see more job opportunities and hope for a future in the larger power. But Russia doesn't seem interested, and neither Russia nor Romania are making any noises towards breaking the 3-decade-old ceasefire that led to this status quo. And for now, Transnistria remains an odd curiosity in world politics, but one that's open to visitors. So, what is it like to visit a country that doesn't exist? For one thing, don't expect all the comforts of other countries. The region doesn't have its own international airport, so unless you're chartering a small plane, you're probably flying into Moldova or Ukraine. From there, you'll probably be taking a journey by bus or train, and make sure to have your paperwork in order. You'll probably be encountering quite a few border checkpoints. You can also take an organized tour
This was made in 2021. There was no war going on back then. At least there was this breakaway region in Ukraine, Donbass, that wanted autonomy. And yeah, the Ukrainians were fighting to keep that region in their own control. So, and now Russia is supporting the breakaway place, in Ukraine. So that's what the whole war is about. Now, we're going to take a look at our colleagues, Frankie. Let's see what they got
Another
here.
panel, and that is also in America. Olaf, do you know who that is in America? Who has that panel?
In America, there is a panel, yes.
How is it called?
AVI, let's look it up. There's a panel indeed. Wait a minute. There's a bit of a. I hope I can find it. They went also. So I have to look up. There's. Wait a minute. I think it's no, it's not this. Wait a minute. This is the digital soldiers. This is a panel which is a little mixed with America and Canada. This is this one.
Oops. Oh well. She's on here somewhere. Let's see. V for Valentine is live. The Podcast is live. Fry TV Now is live. We're going to switch over to the US. Let's see what's happening there.
Yeah. Said G made me on. Citizens under Mrs. G's seat snatching some snacks. Guys, keep an eye out for the pups. LOL. Yeah, guys, we have Karen said, give Mr. G a banana to keep him awake. I hear him yawning.
I guess people are protesting, driving around. And yeah, that's what they're probably doing. I don't know what's going on here, but I guess this is some protest. I don't know. But that's also a very good channel to watch. Fry TV Now. Support each other, which is what we're doing. Yeah. So we're also, let's see, Fake Mike Real News is also going to go live. There's one waiting. Johnny Depp, the defamation lawsuit is still ongoing. And yeah, it's very sad to see. Freedom Fighters Worldwide, that's Frankie. Let's see. Let's look at Asia. Arirang News. Let's look at that. This is South Korea news. So let's see what the South Koreans are saying. President-elect Yoon on trip to Shenyang region. That's interesting. Let's see what else we got here. UN chief visits Ukraine and says that war is evil. Of course it is. You know, we want peace. We don't want a government that's, shooting out wars and stuff like that, false flags, and really, really insane. That's not what we want. Yoon's delegation to Japan. Now, this is interesting because Japan and the Philippines have a joint contract to protect Taiwan. Now, the Philippines is holding elections, so that's on the table. And South Korea does want to know if Japan is still on board with what they signed up for, protecting Taiwan. So it's very interesting to see the new president, his delegation going to Japan. Now, let's take a look at this here.
President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol's delegation to Japan returns to South Korea on this Thursday after a 5-day visit to the neighboring country aimed at setting a fresh tone for constructive partnership amid a radical shift in international order. For more, I have Professor Min Jong-hoon from the Korean National Diplomatic Academy. Welcome back, Professor Min.
My pleasure.
I also have Professor Sociaal Nakato at Ritsumeikan University live on the line. Professor Nakato, it's good to have you back.
Thank you very much for your invitation, Kim.
Right, Professor Min, we'll start here then. Let's begin with your overall assessment of the diplomatic mission to Japan led by lawmaker Chung Jin-seok on behalf of the incoming Yoon administration.
Well, basically, I think that the Korean consultation delegation to Tokyo did a good job in terms of laying the groundwork for the revitalizing the relationship between South Korea and Japan. As you know, some people say that the relationship between South Korea and Japan hit the lowest level since the normalization of the diplomatic relations in 1965. But the two countries are still important neighbors and partners. They share the democratic values and universal values and norms. And they also have some common interests that they need to work together, like the economic cooperation and cooperation against North Korea's threats. So there's no doubt that it is necessary for two countries to revitalize their relationships in the coming years. And the President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol mentioned several times that it's in South Korea's national interest to revitalize or normalize the relationship with Japan. And his campaign pledges show that if elected, his administration want to build a future-oriented relationship with Japan based on the perception of history. So I think sending the Korean delegation to Tokyo is kind of the clear expression of the willingness of the incoming South Korean government that it truly want to revitalize its relationship with Japan. And it is also known that the delegation had meetings with Japan's key political and economic figures, including the current Prime Minister of Japan, and they agreed that they would make efforts to reach a desirable.
Now, this here's a bilateral thing going on between South Korea and Japan, and there were deals made by the former government. Now they want to concretize these deals, I guess. It's all on the table. So that's very interesting to see how the new president of South Korea, Yoon, will respond to the bilateral relations with Japan, because the first country that South Korea went to was China. Remember that? So, and China and Japan are arch enemies. North and South Korea are arch enemies. North Korea is like a paranoid country, you know. They think that China is going to attack them. They think that Japan is going to attack them. South Korea is going to attack them. So they're very, very paranoid. And you have this despot, this tin pot dictator as their ruler, you know, Kim Jong-un, who is shooting out missiles left to right, you know, towards Japan. And it's a very, very sad thing to see, you know. So this is geopolitics that you're getting, and interesting clip to look at. You know, Arirang News, take a look at that, guys, because there's a lot going on in the world, and we are all part of this planet. So we're going to take a look at Fake Mike Real News. This is probably an interview with, let's see, Leo Zagami. Let's see what Will Turbot is talking about with Leo Zagami.
Around the world, as I was associated with various lodges and various orders, without really desting the attention of when you, of course, are going around the world and you want to be a little bit more reserved and anonymous, you find yourself some kind of cover up, and in a way, my music business was a cover up also for other activities. But of course, the music, when you tell me the music, I am a lover of such a wide range of sounds. I mean, I like the music of Pink Floyd, but at the same time...
Providence, Rhode Island actually was the city on the mafia from the 80s, not just the Providence family, but also the Boston and some New York families from the 80s, at least into the 90s. And they have this this little area, Federal Hill, which is the Italian enclave, and they got Frank Sinatra singers, and they still got gangsters over there. It's pretty interesting. Maybe we can get them throw on some Wu-Tang Clan too. But let's get into some more serious stuff, unfortunately, too. Regarding this nuclear plan that's going on, you've been researching that a little bit, and I don't think a lot of people have heard about that. Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Well, in my latest book, I talk about the Great Reset. And when I was studying the Great Reset, one of the things that really was kind of astonishing for me was all these connections that certain people like Henry Kissinger, Klaus Schwab, of course, Henry Kissinger, we all know, but Klaus Schwab, some people might still not know, is the guy who founded the Davos Agenda, the World Economic Forum, had with the nuclear world, let's call it the nuclear world. Even his father was involved with the making of the attempted making of the first atomic bomb for the Nazis. But in reality, the Schwab family worked for a very long time, a few generations of the Schwab family for this company, Eichweiss, based both in Switzerland and in Germany. That made these giant turbines that were used for the production of heavy water. That's why I said, fortunately, there was a sabotage during the Second World War by the Norwegian rebels, that kind of partisans, whatever you want to call them, that kind of attacked and were able of stopping that project for the Nazis that would have forever changed the course of history as we know it. However, Schwab understood the importance of the nuclear field in the 60s when he was still working for his family business before moving on to the World Economic Forum, and he facilitated the arrival of, let's say, the elements you need to build yourself as a nuclear power. Also,
My man Will got a lot of interesting people that he talks to, you know, like Leo Zagami, which is an author, a writer, researcher, and creator of a popular blog concerning his direct involvement with the New World Order. Yeah, we're fighting the New World Order. You know, we don't want a New World Order. We want self-governance. We don't want some global organization deciding for us. We want self-governance. We want our government to, do something for the population. That's what governments are for. So we're going to take a look at Al Jazeera because I saw something on Al Jazeera which was very interesting. It was about Iraq and Turkey, because in northern Iraq, southern Turkey, there's this border dispute, and very interesting to watch that happen. Here you have Turkey and Iraq, and over here at the border you have a dispute. You have like Turkish troops in Iraq because they say soldiers of the PKK, which is a Kurdish organization, is in the north of Iraq. So, and they're trying to smoke them out. And it's not really going well, I guess. That's also very interesting. Russia suspends gas to Poland and another country. But let's see if we can find that clip. It's always good to follow Al Jazeera, you know, and they are pretty biased. Let's see if we can find that clip here somewhere, because they have this anti-Russia sentiment, and that is their bias, you know. Let's see if Iraq, Turkey, there. Here you go. Iraq, Turkey, Kurdish fighters, as you can see. I'm not lying. This is what's happening on the ground. This was 6 days ago. And let's take a look at this.
Abdul Karim loves his sheep. He knows each one individually. They replaced his human friends when he and his family had to leave their home near the Turkish border because of the continuing conflict between Kurdish PKK fighters and the Turkish military.
We left all our possessions. The village was burned. We lost everything. We do not have other prospects apart from these animals. The situation is not comparable to the old village. Nothing here is like our village.
Hundreds of families have had to move in the last few years. As we get closer to the border, clusters of abandoned homes can be seen every few miles. Empty villages like this mean the Hook is facing its third wave of displacement. But the first ones came during the Syrian Revolution. Then there was the fight against ISIL, and now the fighting between the Turkish government and the PKK means more people are forced to leave their homes and move towards the city. The northern Dahuk province in Iraq's Kurdish region has 16 camps for displaced people and 5 more for migrants.
More than 200 families were forced out recently. The population in Dahuk was doubled overnight, but we welcome them. They are as ourselves. We try not to make them feel like displaced or immigrants living among us.
Turkey's military regularly posts videos to show tunnels and weapons it says, were used by members of the PKK, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, a group designated as terrorists by Turkey, the United States and the European Union. But Turkish military posts deep in Iraqi territory are a controversial issue for the semi-autonomous Kurdish region and Iraqi authorities. Everyone near the border has lost family members or their own livelihoods to the conflict. Ramzi was displaced 2 decades ago and is now having to move again.
I've lived here all my life. Our house is now destroyed due to the fighting. We used to live in peace, but for more than 2 years we have not been able to reach our villages or farm our lands because of the Turkish shelling.
It's a difficult life for those who say they're caught in the middle. They say if fighters knock on their doors for food or shelter, they are compelled to help, but then seen as collaborators by soldiers.
It is no secret that the PKK are present in the area. However, we hope that our lands are not taken as a battlefield between the two parties, PKK and Turkish army. We have been living here for a long time. Our livelihood is here, and we cannot pay the price for their conflict.
We want peace. We don't want any fighting going on. I mean, what are you guys fighting for, huh? You want your own region? Well, do it on a political platform. You know, don't fight about it. You know, go to your parliament with all these people, and you know, demand your own region. You know, you don't have to fight for it. I mean, come on. There are people dying on the streets, you know, and you want your own region? Put it in a political sphere. Talk about it. You know, talk about it. No bullet can stop an idea whose time has come. Now, that's Victor Hugo. So that's what the political spheres are for. You know, talk. No fighting. We don't want any war. We don't want any victims. We don't want any displaced people. No, you live there in happiness and peace. You know, no conflicts. I thought we were beyond that. We were beyond conflict, right? Wrong. We're still fighting for a small piece of land. You know, if you want your own region, put it on the table. Put it on the political table. You know, don't fight. Fighting has been going on long enough for these people. These people are suffering. You know, this may be far away in another country, but what happens there can also happen here. You know? So here we have Iran, and isn't it amazing that the Ayatollah, you know, that guy that has contact with Allah, he has a Twitter account, but the former president of the United States of America still is not on Twitter. It's amazing. Elon Musk also bought Twitter, so who knows? Maybe he will be on Twitter. We will see. But, you know, Iran is saying death to America, death to Israel. No death. No, that's not what Allah wants, you know. Talk about it. Talk about it. There's also a Cold War going on between Saudi Arabia and Iran. It's been going on for quite a while, you know, and all these countries that were overthrown, as you know, Iraq, and as they've tried in Syria, there were also proxies from Saudi Arabia and Iran, trying to influence the Iraqi people and the Syrian people, and it's been one big hellhole over there. And that is partly to blame on the US. I'm not a friend of Saddam, but that was a stable region back then. They didn't talk about it. They said Saddam is on the cards. You actually had a poker game with all these generals and ministers and stuff like that. And Saddam was the ace of spades, man. The prime target. So, yeah, the country was overthrown and lots of violence going on. And that is partly to blame of the US. So, yeah, ever since then, it's been a hellhole, And if you look at Israel, for example, I'm not a friend of Israel, so they're cleaning out homes in the West Bank, and it's very sad to see, very sad, because Palestine used to be a region of the Ottoman Empire, and those people still feel as a Palestinian, yet they're not recognized as a Palestinian, as a state, just like Transnistria. And this is a very complex situation because above Israel, we have Lebanon, which is a failed state right now. They have barely any money, and the politics is dead, basically. So it's a very complex situation. And there's a lot more to tell. Have you looked at Chad lately? There you have Chad. Remember when the president of Chad was shot at the border? You guys remember that? Yeah, that's what happens when you support all these terroristic groups in Libya trying to overthrow Gaddafi. Gaddafi's overthrown. Oh, there's another country. Hey, we can overthrow that, And that's basically what happened. Chad is, it's in the balance of power, right? The son of the president who got killed wants to be the next in line to be president, and the military is having this interim government, and elections are on the way in Chad. So it's still a stable country, and the other countries aren't, like Ethiopia, which also has their own problems, and it's very fluctuating, Mali has had 4 coups, right? Burkina Faso has had a coup. Niger had a coup. They tried in Chad and other places, like Cote d'Ivoire. That's where they also tried. So it's very fluctuating, So that's Africa, also a very interesting continent. Now, if you look at South America, for example, right, most South American countries are like socialist countries still, except for Brazil, which is one of the largest countries in the South of America. And yeah, all these countries are basically lending money from the IMF, except for Brazil. They have a steady balance, you know. So the thing that most South American countries have to do is give a middle finger to the IMF, kick them out of your country, and yeah, that's one of the first things you guys got to do over there, you know. And the land of the free, the United States. Yep. Well, it's not free anymore, you know. You got like a sleepy Joe Biden, and they're still doing their interview. Joe Biden is really a heck of a president. Now, let's see if we can show Joe Biden. There you go. Let's see if we can pull him up, because that what he says, it's like, what, huh? Here, let's see how he slips up on Ukraine.
Would invade, and they surely did. We said we'd not send U.S. troops to fight Russian troops in Ukraine, but we would provide robust military assistance and try to unify the Western world against Russia's aggression. I said I would impose powerful sanctions on Russia, and that we destroy this myth that somehow they can continue to move without the rest of the world acting. That we deploy additional forces to defend NATO territory, particularly in the east along the Russian and Belarus borders. That's exactly what we said we would do, and we did. But despite the disturbing rhetoric coming out of the Kremlin, the facts are plain for everybody to see. We're not attacking Russia. We're helping Ukraine defend itself against Russian aggression. And just as Putin chose to launch his...
That's like backing the Syrian rebels and saying, we're not going to overthrow Syria. No. It's all in your head, you know. And that's what basically we did as the Netherlands. We backed the Syrian rebels. Here, I'll translate this for you guys. Wait. Let's see if we can find it here. There we go. This is the Algemeen Dagblad, which is a Dutch news agency. And Netherlands gave support to jihadis in Syria. Netherlands has given support to a jihadi movement. Nieuwsuur en Trouw had an investigation to that. The organization is called Debat al-Shamia, and our own Ministry of Justice says it's a criminal organization with a terroristic mark. So there you go. That's what we were supporting. Yep. And now Biden is telling us, no, we're not fighting Russia. We're just supporting the Ukrainians. You know, it's insanity. Really is insanity. So, but he didn't slip up yet. I guess the teleprompter has large letters.
Brutal invasion, he could make the choice to end this brutal invasion. Russia is the aggressor. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Russia is the aggressor.
Okay, Russia is the aggressor, right? Now, what about Victoria Nuland and what's the guy's name? Jeffrey Pyatt? Oh wait, that's Victorian Farm. It's also very nice to see three archaeologists and living in a temporary era, which is the Victorian era, stuff like that. And they have a farm. Very nice to see, but Victoria Nuland, phone call, Ukraine, there you go. She said, fuck the EU. This was in 2014. Now, people have to realize, right, there were two contracts that the former president of Ukraine had on table, which was one was join the European Union, we'll take care of you, and two was join the Russian Federation, we'll take care of you. And Yanukovych signed for the Russian Federation, which gave the US green light to overthrow the government and put in their own puppet government. Now, we're going to watch Victoria Nuland say, F the EU.
When you're a high-ranking official talking about diplomatic efforts in Ukraine, the last thing you want to do is drop your guard.
So that would be great, I think, to help glue this thing and have the UN help glue it and, you know, the EU.
But that is exactly what reportedly happened between US Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland and US Ambassador to Ukraine Jeffrey Pyatt. The exchange has since surfaced online, including the crude swipe at the European Union. The audio clip of a woman and man, said to be Nuland and Pyatt, here's them discussing strategies to work with the three main opposition figures.
I don't think Cleach should go into the government. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's a good idea.
In terms of him not going into the government, just let him sort of stay.
Who are you to decide who's going to be in the government? Right? Who are you to decide that? Isn't it upon the Ukrainian people to decide who will govern over them? Who's the aggressor, Russia or the US? Now, I'm not a fan of both sides, you know. I just want peace. But it all started in 2014 with this telephone call here. So, who is the aggressor? Now, we just touched, you know, the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more going on, of course, and I can't really, can't really put it into words. What's going on? You know, it's even Sri Lanka is protesting. This was yesterday. Now let's take a look at Sri Lanka. A lot of people are like, "Hey, where's that? Sri Lanka? I've heard of that." You know, it's where is that? Well, this is Sri Lanka over here. It's near India. It's an island, and it's basically in trouble economic times right now. So let's see here. Sri Lanka mass protests
Despite nationwide protests, Sri Lanka's President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has said he will not resign and that he will only step down if he loses the majority in parliament. Sri Lanka has been in the grip of an economic crisis with foreign debt estimated at some 51 billion US dollars. It's the country's worst financial crisis since its independence in the year 1948. Citizens have been protesting against months of blackouts and acute scarcity of food, fuel and other essentials. The president has been facing fierce public protests against his government's handling of this economic crisis. He has said that he will hand over the government to any group that could muster 113 seats. But he will not step down from the country's presidency, however. The Sri Lankan government is taking emergency measures as its financial troubles grow. It has sought help from the International Monetary Fund to prevent a further worsening of this crisis. The IMF has asked Sri Lanka to restructure.
You don't lend from the IMF. You know, that's the worst thing you can do. Lend from the IMF. You know, because the money you lend, you have to pay back in threefold. You see, and these countries can never pay back what the IMF lends them out. So don't do business with the IMF. That's the first thing that people in Sri Lanka have to realize, right? Don't do business with the IMF. Very, very bad.
Its foreign debt before a bailout program is finalized. The country will be provided some kind of interim relief by way of a loan amounting to anywhere between $300 million to $600 million, which will then be spent on purchasing medicines and other essential items. Sri Lanka will also receive an aid package from the World Bank over the next 4 months. However, this move has impacted discussions between Sri Lanka and China. The countries were in talks for a $1.5 billion credit line. Sri Lanka has reached out.
It's always the Chinese, huh? It's always them. You know, there's another country we can invest in, Sri Lanka. You know, they're also investing in most parts of Africa, like South Sudan, and even in Somalia, they're investing, Kenya, and other African countries. So, yeah, the Chinese, they see another opportunity. You know, why not invest in Sri Lanka? You know, they're in an economic crisis, you know. We got enough money under the table. That's how it goes, people. That's how it goes. So, that's world politics for you. You know. And we could also do some history, you know, Peloponnesian War and stuff like that. It's very interesting. But that's what's going on right now. Now, let's see. The fall of civilizations is also very interesting to watch. Fall of civilizations. There used to be a very big empire in Africa. The Ghana Empire was under another name, but it's somewhere here on Fall of Civilizations. Let's see, the Songhai Empire. Yeah, you see, Africa's Age of Gold. Very interesting to watch. Let's take a look at this.
To them for their needs. Among these people are diviners and sorcerers.
But in the cities, Islam was the dominant religion, at least in name. For a West African citizen of this time, becoming a Muslim had a number of benefits. It helped you to build a rapport and trade with the foreigners who arrived from across the desert. and at times it allowed people to avoid certain taxes. And it also shielded people from the increasingly bold slave-taking raiders who came down from the Sahara. Just like in Christian Europe, under Islamic law it was illegal for a Muslim to take another Muslim as a slave, and this prohibition was taken very seriously. The 14th century Islamic scholar Makhluf al-Balbali was one of the first to set this law in writing.
Anyone who is known to be from those lands, which are known to be the lands of Islam, and who mentions he is from those lands, should be let go, and should be adjudged free. This was the ruling of the jurists of Andalusia.
Legal disputes would even erupt periodically over whether it was allowed to sell slaves who had converted after being captured. And for the Kingdom of Mali as a whole, converting to Islam offered similar protections. Again, similar to Christian Europe, Muslim kings were only supposed to go to war when it was legally sanctioned.
So there you have it, people. Watch the Songhai Empire. Very interesting. You know, there's a lot to watch on YouTube and other channels. So, yeah, Fake Mike Real News is still doing their interview. That's good. You know, we need more live streamers, more people streaming some news here. Now let's take a look at Johnny Depp, how the stars have fallen, right? There you go.
Incidents that come to my mind. One incident was on a private plane. I can't recall if it was a domestic flight or an international flight. I'm sitting, Johnny and Amber, or Johnny, whoever he's flying with, will sit up at the foretable up aft, and myself and my colleagues will sit down the end of the plane. So I usually look up the fuselage that way, with my back to the nose. Amber had her back to me, Johnny's sitting across the table, and there's a bit of bickering going on. I can't hear because, you know, they're talking about jetcraft. I can't actually hear, and it's more animated than verbal. And I see a lighter, a plastic lighter, bounce off his chest. Boom, bounce off his chest. So right away I think, well, this is going to escalate. Or it's either going to go one way or the other. I don't think it came to much. I remember Johnny just sort of, you know, smirking and looking away as if to say, you know, well, what is that? It kind of attitude, you know.
Now to give some background here, Johnny Depp was married to Amber Heard, right? Another actress, and Amber Heard had these accusations that Johnny mistreated her. You know, gave her a black eye and this and that. That came out in the tabloids, and Johnny Depp lost his contracts with a lot of studios, as like Disney and Warner Brothers. And, you know, Johnny Depp says, this is not fair. I'm losing all my contracts for movies, and you're playing Aquaman 2, and you know, this is not fair. So he was defamed. Hollywood did not want him acting anymore. So Johnny said, this is not true. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to put this to court and let the public decide. So this is some guy who sat on a plane with Johnny and Amber.
I don't know what it was, but it's launched from the mezzanine. And Johnny's had this huge TV, the biggest TV I've ever seen, in fact, but this, and it's on this mechanical arm, which is an actual piece of artwork that Johnny had got commissioned. And anyway, this big mechanical arm holds this TV. So this can of pop, you want to call it pop, smashes on that, and but by force, let me add, because it made a bang, boom, and all I can hear is it spraying all over the place. Johnny has already got his jacket on and a bag over his shoulder. That's why he's called me in, because we're leaving. I just pick up the other bags, 2 bags, pick up the 2 bags, put my hand through Johnny's arm and say, right, boss, we're leaving. We walk out the door. We walk out the door and we go halfway to the West Hollywood. Johnny's already calmed down, you know, he's like, man, can you...
Objection,
no,
objection to the extent he's talking.
Objection, Your Honor, objection. Yeah. So there you have it. I think he's sleeping. Looks like he's sleeping. No, his eyes are twitching. That's what's going on, basically, and the stars have fallen, you know. So, and a lot of people are like pro Johnny, and the Amber Heard camp is like slimly going away, you know, and now she is the bad person. I guess she's not mentally stable if you crap on someone's bed, you know. And you think that I'd make that up, right?
As to where, as to who had thrown the soda can?
Objection, speculation.
You know,
Okay, hold on, sir.
Speculation, foundation.
I'm just asking if he formed an understanding, and he can state the basis for that if he did.
If you want to lay a foundation.
And there you go. Johnny Depp's testimony of Amber Heard pooping in his bed. Let's take a look at this here.
And I suppose Miss Heard was down in her area taking off her makeup and changing into sleep clothes, whatever, and she entered the bedroom while I was laying on my side of the bed, reading, and she was still rattling off all the wrongs I'd done to her in that particular day, and how unreliable I am, and what a horrible person I was, and I did not engage verbally, nothing. I sat there or laid there, reading my book, and when she didn't get a jump out of me or a jolt out of me, she got out of bed, she walked around the bed, she came to my side, and again, you know, you've got a person who is throwing multiple shots at your face, at your head, at your neck, at anything she could hit. So I got up out of bed, and I grabbed her by the shoulders, and I sat her down on the bed, and I said, I'm leaving. Please don't get off the bed. Please don't follow me. Please don't try and stop me. I'm leaving. And she got up off the bed, and she squared off at me in the doorway of our bedroom. And I said, what do you want to do? Hit me again? Would you like to hit me again? And I said, go ahead. Hit me. Bam. And then I just said, is that what you wanted? Would you like another?
This is very hard to listen to because, you know, a lot of males get accused of beating females, but it is the other way around sometimes, you know? And I don't know if Johnny is telling the truth here, or I suppose he is. You know, you're not allowed to lie in front of a judge, but it's very odd to see what's happening here. You know, I can't psychoanalyze what's going on with Amber or Johnny, for that matter, but it's very odd to see. You know, every household has their cross. We say in the Netherlands, elk huisje heeft zijn kruisje. But it's very odd to see what's happening here. You know, all these stories, they would never have come out if Amber would just act normal. You know, and I don't think Johnny would hit her, or there is no past thing of Johnny, you know, because he was together with Winona Ryder and all these other female actresses, and no one has said Johnny hit me, you know. So this is very odd. Look at her; she's like half crying. Like, what? You you actually you actually wanted this. You wanted Johnny to fade away. And
It's the second one. And I said, good, now you're done. Grabbed her by the shoulders, walked her to the bed, sat her down, and said, don't follow me. Leave me alone. I'm out. I'm gone. I went, I grabbed a few things, and I got out immediately, and I went to my other house on Sweetser. As Ms. Heard she was leaving the following day for Coachella, which is Coachella is like it's a big event, a concert, you know, many bands, and yeah, out in the desert. She and her friends were going to Coachella for the weekend, and that was it. That was it.
Mr. Duff, after April 21st, 2016, when was the next time that you actually saw Ms. Heard in person?
I left Ms. Heard, I left Penthouse 3. I left at 4:30 in the morning. It was actually her birthday. It was about 4:30 in the morning, April 22nd. And that's when I left. And from that moment on, I did not see Ms. Heard until May 21st.
And why was that?
well, you need some space. I mean, I'm not a professional in relationships, you know, but you would need some space if someone hits you on the face and, you know, come on, hit me back, come on, be a man. You know, I'd also walk away, man. But yeah.
I had received some news that was as absurd and grotesque and cruel. And then I was shown a picture of what the problem was. I had gone to Mr. Bett and said, she's at Coachella. I think it's a good time to go downtown so that I can get some of my things, you know, and get them out of there, especially the things that were precious to me, you know, children things from friends, Brando, Hunter, Thompson, whatever, things that were important to me. And he said, I don't think now's a good time to go. And I thought, it's the perfect time. She's not going to be home for 2 days. And then he showed me a photograph on his telephone of...
Objection, Your Honor. That's what you're saying.
It's a photograph, Your Honor.
As being relayed to him by Mr. Bett.
He says he looked at it on his phone.
I'll overrule the objection as the photograph.
Objection, Your Honor.
Photograph of Mr. Depp.
No, a lot of people are like not very, knowledgeable of what objection really means. There you go. In the law, United States of America, an objection is a formal protest raised in court during a trial to disallow the witness testimony or other evidence in violation of the rules of evidence or other procedural law. So there you have it. That's an objection. So now Johnny's going to describe why he's, why he doesn't have to go back. It's really amazing. Here, take a listen to this, right?
It was a photograph of the bed, our bed, and on my side of the bed, was human fecal matter. So I understood why it wasn't a good time to go down there. My initial response to that.
She pooped on the bed. It's like, what? There's something neurological wrong with you if you poop on the bed because you disagree with someone, or it's this is why I am single.
That was, I laughed. It was so outside. It was so bizarre and so grotesque that I could only laugh.
Yeah, it's a very natural response, I guess. You won't. I've had relationships. I never had someone crap on my bed. Yeah, it's like, what? And Amber was trying to blame the dogs. 2-pound dogs. They can't really, produce that much. Come on.
So I did not go down there that day.
I wouldn't either, So this whole Johnny Depp thing is a bit like the Ukraine situation, You have like two countries fighting over a territory. This territory is mine. No, it's mine. No, it's autonomous. Nope, nope. It's mine. Nope. So, yeah, there are parallels there. And as we started with Transnistria, it's over here. It's all the way. The whole border of Moldova is Transnistria. And yeah, a lot of people don't know this, So this is why RHTVLive is live, not only on Facebook, but also on YouTube. And this is also why we're speaking English, So there's a lot more on table. And we could go on for hours, The Bin Laden papers. Now, let's take a look at this here. Bin Laden papers. Bin Laden was a CIA asset during the Russian war in Afghanistan. A lot of people tend to forget that. The same with oops. Oh man, really? I have to burp. Oh man. The same with 60 minutes. It's always they don't want to give you the truth. They want to give you some truth, but not the whole truth. And that is the truth. Because if you look at, say, for example, Edward Bernays, right? Edward Bernays. There you go. Propaganda quote. Edward Bernays. Now let's see what this guy had to say, right? This is the grandfather of propaganda. So the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government. It is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. In almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental process and the social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind. You see, that is the invisible government. It's a lobby groups, the shadow lobby groups, like the Council on Foreign Relations, the CFR. Now let's see if we can find that here on Google. There you go, Council on Foreign Relations. Yep. And there you have it. We're on the web page. So don't tell me that the Council on Foreign Relations does not exist. This is a shadow lobby group, right, of old politicians, and stuff like that. And they basically decide the geopolitics within the world. You see, the Philippines election, what to know. We also showed some of that a few days ago. And it's very interesting to see what's going on in the Philippines. Because as I've said before, right, the Philippines contract with Japan and other countries to protect Taiwan. Now, who knows what they'll do if they'll have another government? Who knows? Who knows? So, let's see what else. So the Council on Foreign Relations steers the agenda of most countries. And there's also another shadow organization called the World Economic Forum. Yep, that's also something that we need to bestow our eyes upon. World Economic Forum. There we go. The World Economic Forum is an international, non-governmental, and lobbying organization. As I've said before, right? It's a shadow organization. And there are other organizations under this umbrella of the World Economic Forum. You see? We need to understand this. So there's also the Bilderberg Group. And let's see, Bilderberg Group. There you go. Bilderberg meetings. Now, if you go to the website, bilderberg.org, I believe. .org. Bilderberg meetings. Bilderberg Nazi roots censored by Wikipedia. Yep, they have Nazi roots. Yeah. So the Nazis were not defeated. They just evolved, basically. You know, and if you look at meetings, for instance, you see that the meetings 2020 and 2021 had to be canceled due to travel and meeting restrictions. So you're telling me that that you don't have these conferences anymore for like 2 years? Really? Am I supposed to believe that during a time of Zoom and other chat applications that you can use, like Skype and this and that, you know? Am I supposed to believe that there are no meetings, no agenda? Come on. So, and there's so much to tell. You know, we've been going on for quite a while. Let's see if we can show some comments here. Nope, no comments here. Look on Facebook. Let's see. Yeah, we had King's Day. And if you watch RHTVLive, we spend a whole broadcast on that. We gave some Dutch history and stuff like that. So, yeah, we're still, let's see. Yeah, never mind. You know, I wanted to say something, but never mind. There you go, the balcony. And another picture of me. This is in the city of Maastricht. And there's a big protest, hopefully. There's nothing on this channel, basically. Nothing newsworthy, though. You know. So, we've had mass protests in Sri Lanka. We've had the Turkey-Iraq border dispute and other topics to talk about, to think of, Johnny Depp. We've also had that. And that is what we're doing. We're tracking what's happening in the world. We also showed some of Transnistria. Now, let's see how the scammers are doing. Scammer payback. Let's see if he's got a new video. This guy calls up scammers and hacks their phones and stuff like that, hacks their computers. Very interesting. So let's take a look at this.
I want to show you a scam that's going on with crypto scammers pretending to be Robinhood customer support. You either receive an email or call them up from a fake support ad.
Thank you for calling Robinhood.
They're going to pretend to be the good guys. You either have fraudulent activity on your account or somebody's trying to hack you. Either way, their game plan is to gain access to your phone or your computer, create new accounts, and steal all of your money. I call these guys so that you can see their routine and hopefully avoid being scammed.
I told you, sir, I told you that you're not supposed to talk to me in between when I'm speaking, all right?
They had me write down...
I know the plan. I know the plan.
I want to talk to Mike. Jolly caught him.
He's busy for your mom.
Come on. Also, I love doing scammer versus scammer. That's where I drop clues in my story that the scammer is obviously aware of. So, here's the call with the scammers.
Thank you for calling Robinhood. You're speaking with Mark. How can I help you?
Hi, Mike. I'm trying to set up the Robinhood account. I Bank of America says that maybe there's some type of transaction. I don't know if it is or not. And are you eating something?
I'm having my breakfast, sir.
Oh, okay. What are you having?
A little sandwiches, you know.
Oh, okay. A cucumber sandwich with cream cheese.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay. I'm trying to find someone technical enough to tell me what's going on my computer when I'm trying to access this, because my computer seems to be acting a jeep on me, and it's I don't know, sometimes it'll shuru, sometimes
what happened exactly in your
it'll
Robinhood?
shuru, katam, so.
Like what happened exactly with your Robinhood?
Well, I don't know if I even have an account, so I was trying to use it on my desktop, and I was searching for support. I found your website, and because I'm trying to surprise my wife with a Robinhood account, because I'm, don't they do all those, the Doji coin and all of that?
Yes, sir.
A gentleman had reached out to my wife on Instagram that we could triple our earnings if we just bought the Doji coin, but I haven't seen any returns. I put in $5,000, or at least what I thought it was, to buy the first part.
What other app you have downloaded it into your phone or into your computer? That's what the gentleman said to you, correct?
Yeah,
like,
well, he had me go to a website, Dogecoin to the Moon 43.us, and it's not working anymore, but he had me put in a username and a password for Robinhood, and now I can't even seem to access Robinhood. I don't even know if I have an account.
Like, do you have an account with Coinbase?
What?
Coinbase.
I did get an email from Coinbase, and it says, do you accept? It said, welcome to your new account, but I didn't make that. So I think it might have been some type of scam, so I just deleted it.
Okay. Sir, and how much you are planning to invest in Dogecoin?
Well, I put in $5,000 already. I sent a check to the gentleman. He lives in California. He also had me get out cash. I'm supposed to be sending that to Ohio, to Dayton, Ohio. My first $50,000.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Can I have your name?
My name is Wilson Carter.
Sir, you are not supposed to transfer $50,000 to somebody who got you on Instagram, okay, and asking you for the money.
I was trying to do $400,000, but they said the starting investment is $50,000. They said it's called a compounding investment. Once I do the initial 50, and then after it makes 10%, I need to put in all, he said, put in all your cards on the table. So I was going to put in the rest of the 400,000.
Can you please stop talking to him?
Oh, I mean, he's made a lot of people very rich.
No company asked.
So there you have him, you know, talking to a scammer. Also very, very interesting channel to observe. Now let's see what's going on in Sidestep Adventures. Sidestep Adventures. There you go. Robert lives in the U.S. I believe it's in Georgia. You know, and he visits like graves and old houses and stuff like that. It's very interesting to watch two lonely graves in the woods. Let's see what's going on here.
Hey everybody, it's Robert coming to you with Sidestep Adventures. I'm out here with Mr. Dan, the historian, and we are in the Rough Edge District, back in the Rough Edge District, but we're on the other side from all of our other Rough Edge videos. And in these great Talbot County history books called Rockaway and Talbot, I was reading through here and found out about another cemetery that is in the Rough Edge District. And so we're about to go take a look at it, but before we do, it does have some information about the William T. Hall plantation. That's where we'll be going. And also one thing that I thought was pretty neat is there's pictures from the late 1960s of this cemetery, and it looks exactly the same today as it did back then in the 60s. In other words, the tombstones had fallen when these pictures were made, and they are in the exact place that they'd fallen today. All right, so this says, in the Talbot County Census of 1860, William T. Hall was listed as 41 years of age with $2,400 of real estate and $7,340 of personal estate. His wife, Evelyn H. Beach Hall, was 38. They were born in Georgia. So just in these woods is where the Hall plantation house was. Of course, we're standing on where the Hall plantation land was. Don't know exactly where the home site was. And there is one family cemetery up here, the Hall family cemetery, that we're going to go take a look at. But one thing that I find very intriguing in this book, it writes about the Hall home place house. It says the old home place house of the Hall family was probably built about 1845 to 55. It burned years ago, but was recalled as being a house of 2 stories in the Greek Revival style. Some 60 yards from the site, an old family cemetery surrounded by a rock wall about 3 feet high. Huge oaks, some dead and fallen, with others originally in the front yard, formed a gloomy glade when visited by the Rockaway author. There were no visible markers for the graves within the enclosure. So in addition to the Hall Cemetery, which we're about to take a look at, somewhere out there, there was, at least in the, when did you say this was written?
This was written in the late 60s and mid-1970s.
So during that time period, that rock-walled cemetery was still out here in these woods. And of course today these woods have obviously been clear-cut, and there's no telling whether it's still back there or not. And without knowing the exact location of the old home place, we're probably not really able to find it.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Now let's see where he finds the graves. Yeah, let's see. Oh well. He does find the graves, I believe. Around here somewhere. There you go.
And this is the grave of William T. Hall. He was born August 28, 1818, and died April 12, 1885.
Isn't that interesting? You got like a grave, you know, it's still there. The stone is still there, you know, and lots of lost cemeteries. And it's always nice to see sidestep adventures, roaming the woods, trying to find these graves. Now, if you talk about roaming the woods, you also have Can-Am missing. There you go. The Can-Am Missing Project. You have Mr. Dave Politis, right? And he talks about missing people cases, people that have vanished from the surface of the earth. Now, he normally gives like letters and stuff like that, and somewhere at the end, he'll talk about the missing people cases. So we're going to take a look at this. This was yesterday. Missing person case from South Carolina and New York.
Hey there, friends. Dave Politis, Can-Am Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel. Yeah, it's still a little rainy and brisk out in northern Montana. Hope all of you are having a great day wherever you're at. And this is going to be a show just about missing people. And we will talk about some letters that were sent in and some other things that have been in the news lately that loosely fall into missing people. So first of all, let's get into a letter.
Excuse me, Mr. Politis. It's, you know, I don't want to be rude, but I just want to show the public that that there are missing people and that you talk about it. There you go.
And there was no way to understand how they got there, how they got in, how long they've been in, etc. Why is this important? Because this, to me, shows almost an advanced stage for whatever's taking people. To take people and put them back or drop them back in an area that they've already been, yeah. But to take people and to put them into water tells me, number one, that's really smart. Why? Because once you put something in water, then it becomes the bacteria of that water. And bodies decompose at a different rate in water, warm water versus cold water. They're concealed for a period of time. And many times coroners don't put an association between the number of days that somebody's been missing and the number of days that they've been in the water. Key points. So, August 14th, 2008, Devon Johnson, 38 years old. He lived in South Carolina. He lived on Shillings Bridge Road in Orangedale. And, hold on one second here. Somebody's knocking at my door.
Hope it's not the cops.
Bad time to be interrupting filming. Start over. Devon Johnson, 38 years old. Missing August 14th, 2008, about 9 a.m. from Orangeburg, South Carolina. Devon was an interesting person. He was only 5 foot tall, and from the things I read, he might have been a special needs person. He lived in his own house. He was a clerk at a grocery store, Piggly Wiggly. He didn't drive, and most of the time his parents and friends gave him a ride to and from work. Well, sometime between 5:30 p.m. when he got off of work, April 13th, and 9 a.m., April 14th, something happened. me show you a picture of Dylan. He didn't report to work at Piggly Wiggly. Called his parents. Parents went out to his house. And his house was on Schillings Bridge Road outside of Orangeburg. Everything seemed in order. Nothing was unusual. Seems like he should have been there. Giant search the surrounding area. Nothing unusual. Nothing missing. Nothing taken. No evidence of a fight. His parents made comments to the newspaper that Devon would never leave his house. He went from the store to his home, from his home to the store. He never left. He never went to take walks. He stayed in the confines of that house. That was his safety net. Where is that house? Well, this is South Carolina. This is Columbus up here. Here's Orangeburg right here. And here's Schillings Bridge Road where he lived. Now, 11.6, 12 miles north is North Road. Now, why is that important? Well, on August 17th, 3 days later after he disappeared, a trucker is driving down the road alongside North Road. And he looks in the pond next to the road and he thinks he sees a body. Calls the sheriff. They recover the body. It's Devon Johnson. Now, most of you would say, whatever. You know, that's sad, yeah, but whatever. No, it's not whatever. Because if you're a critical thinker, like I am, I know this means something. The sheriff said that there was no fishing equipment. Devon didn't fish anyhow. But his body is in a pond 12 miles north of his house in an area he would never go to. So, the coroner says that he was alive when his body entered the water. What does that mean to you? Remember, I've told you before about GHB. Of course they didn't test for GHB. Wasn't within the scan notice of the 24 drugs that they would normally test for. I don't blame the coroner for that, but I do say that that's part of the problem with this system.
Still,
the sheriff called this case a huge mystery because they couldn't understand how he got from his house to that location. Something obviously happened at the house late that afternoon, or early in the evening, or early in the morning, and he disappeared. Sheriff said that he was trying to retrace the tracks. He couldn't. He was reaching a roadblock. But the case posed a huge mystery to him. Yeah, I agree.
So there you have it. Yeah, it's a big mystery. Who knows what's going on? You can only take an educated guess. Well, people, I've been live long enough, so we're gonna shut down the broadcast. Normally, we show Ollie the Octopus, but let's show Mr. Turbid some respect here.
What is going on, folks? Will Turbid here. Fake Mike! Real news. Kind of caught it on that stream. Welcome to the stream, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody join up. Share the feed. We are here with the legendary Leo Zagami from leozagami.com. And we'll let Leo give you a little bit about himself because we have a lot of new viewers now thanks to a lot of new channels, so that's awesome. We are like Leo. We've been banned off social media and YouTube, Facebook, and so we want to also support Leo's channel as well, too. got a ton of questions for Leo, but Leo, welcome to the stream. And if you could give at least a brief introduction, you can go as deep as you want. But to the people because a lot of our new audience is from a very diverse section. It's from cop watching and also gematria. So it's an interesting blend of people here, of people that are going to be new probably to some of this information, at least some of them. So if you want to give people a little bit of background about yourself before we get into some questions here.
Yeah, for a full bio, I will refer, of course, to the official bio you can find at leozagami.com. In a nutshell, I can say that I was previously part of what you call the New World Order and, of course, the Illuminati. From 2006, I started to disclose and expose those I was actually previously associated with. And, of course, my link to the Illuminati comes from a family background, which is entrenched in the so-called aristocracy and royalty of Europe. So, for those who don't know me, I am by trade an investigative journalist, and of course I have written a lot of books, but I started my career in the music business and as well as, of course, behind the scenes, being responsible of various lodges, various orders that are part, like I said just a moment ago, of the Illuminati network. So I think this gives you an introduction to my work.
Well, that's very interesting interview to watch. So take a look at Will Turbot. We followed him live. And yeah, we're looking at our planet. So we also introduced all the European countries, in the beginning of the show. So there you go, people. There you go. Yeah, we're searching for the truth because that's what we want. We want the truth. We want freedom. In Dutch, it's vrijheid. That's what we need. We need more people to go politically active, and wake up, confront these people. Well, it's been a 2-hour show, so we're going to shut down, and we'll be back tomorrow. You can also follow me on Facebook. If your Dutch is pretty good, we do Dutch live streams on Facebook. And so, thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. And if there's another person, talking geopolitics, send them this way. So, yeah. Thanks for watching.